Here we are. I'm to start another run of this madness. So, if anyone ever decides to watch this, this is my first recorded run of these attempts. So basically what I've been kind of doing ever since I gotten my first completed true ending run is that I've been working towards getting the Steelheart achievement, which, for those of you who haven't seen it, slash are on PS5, because if I remember right, PS5 does not have any of the Steel Soul achievements. Those Steelheart requires you to get 100% in the game while in Steel Soul mode, which, as you might imagine, is torturous. No, it's been a lot of fun. So this is my 10th run in total so far. Not really counting the 9th run as much as the others because I kind of chose to throw it during my testing. Well, actually getting myself killed was not exactly part of the plan in the testing. I was planning on deleting it anyway, so it didn't matter. So yeah, this is my attempts at, doing the hardest achievement in the game. Because there isn't Pantheons yet. So I guess a little bit of context for myself. In the first game, it is on my channel, that final VOD, but I was able to complete Pantheon 5, which, for those of you, that's basically the boss rush, where every single boss is in the game was in that Pantheon. Some of them a little bit modified, like Sisters of Battle, those who know. I completed that all bindings, and it took me 2 years. It was fantastic. It was incredibly difficult. I would not recommend it. Man, I loved every second of it. And I've enjoyed every second of Silksong too. Oh my word. You did not see that. So, obviously I'm not nearly as much as an expert, at least when it comes to the bosses in Silksong, as I am in Hollow Knight. And you might say that I might have a very, very, detrimental condition called a skill issue. But it's fine. Alright, so a little bit about how I'm kind of routing things, because I've actually been creating my own personal route. I know that there's at least one Steelheart guide out there, which I imagine probably has a route and everything. I haven't taken a look. The only resources that I've been kind of using is my prior knowledge. I have this almost 100-page document already that kind of is gives me general routing, remembering lefts and rights, kind of just highlighting things generally I need to keep in mind. Wait, I can kill you for now because I have to loop around anyway. Well, yeah, I've been recording basically my entire journey with Steel Soul in this huge document. So that, maybe one day, once I actually get this run completed and whatnot, I will be posting it, maybe on Steam, maybe I'll make like mini guides as well for certain bosses and whatnot, because sometimes it's a little bit hard to explain in words some of my strategies. So one thing that will be in that guide in particular is that I don't usually specify using specific charms, charm tools. So I keep getting that mixed up. But basically, the build itself that people want to use, if they're going to be following that guide once I publish it, that will be mostly up to them. Because, I'm not going to dictate, what's good, what's bad. Plus, there's the whole crest argument. I don't want to restrict other guide users too much about what to use. They might decide to want to use the most powerful loadouts or whatever, and that's fine. They could do something that's is considered completely garbage. That's also fine. You know, as long as I get through it. That's all that matters to me. And, you know, I have my little preferences too. Too as well, you know? I do like to experiment somewhat during my runs about, you know, whether it's loadouts or different pathings. Of course, if I find out that anything's kind of more efficient, you know, maybe I'll go and, you know, test that out. And a big thing is trying to, you know, maximize time for risk, you know? Like, one of the things that I do in this route is that I wait until a lot later in... I split Act 2 into 3 parts. I wait until the second part of what I consider to be Act 2 in my route for Hunter's March. Because, as it turns out, even with upgrades and whatnot, even if you know how to fight the ants and whatnot, the scars, they are still a bit of a pain. There we go. Lost weather down. So I purposely delay. And of course, you know, you'll see, probably, somehow, you know, when we get to that point. Alright, so there we go. Gotten to the top of moss. You know, fall damage. Fall damage is not fun. Even little half spiders have to deal with it. So yeah, there's that. There's a max shard in particular that can be gotten as soon as you get the hook shot that I personally wait until the very, like, one of the last things that I pick up in Act 2 because it is annoying. And I'll mention it once we get to that point. But yeah, so I'm hoping kind of like with this, you kind of get a little bit of insight of, you know, how not to die or mess up too horribly. No, death is inevitable, you know. You know, as I said, this is my 10th run. So... thanks. So obviously also, if you haven't seen the game and you want to play it, or you want, like, I would heavily recommend that you go somewhere else because of spoilers. Like, you're going to see everything, at least everything that counts towards 100%. There's a couple things... Oh, hey, sis.
Round whatever.
Round 10-ish. Because I kind of purposely threw round 9 in order to test some things. Because I want to record my runs. And I've gotten everything actually set up. The only thing that's annoying me right now is the fact that my keyboard is loud. That's a keyboard issue.
Yeah, that's just kind of... Well, that and if you throw it into Premiere, there might be a few things. Cut it out of it.
I forgot to get some... It's fine. It's only 30 rosaries. It'll be fine.
And also, if you can figure out how to record the basis.
Well, I'm actually using OBS. I figured out how to get that downloaded and set up.
You should be able to throw it into Premiere and just do some... You can't. You might be able to cut out at least a little bit.
I'm not too overly concerned about it, sis, honestly.
True.
Yeah, this is
just
mostly...
want to throw it up alongside the bindings run.
Hey, you know...
You still deserve that apple pie.
Oh, is there an apple pie cooking right now?
If only. Anyways, I'm gonna do my things. Let you focus.
You distracted me! Yeah, don't mind her. That's my sister. Yeah, she knows that I've been kind of working towards this. Though she didn't know about the recording. That this was all spur of the moment kind of thing. But yeah, my kind of the big reason why I'm doing this is to also hold myself accountable. Yeah, plus I just thought it'd be really cool if I could do something like, you know, if I actually beat this, you know, on record. Try to be cool there. There we go. But I kind of want to hold myself accountable and, you know, give myself at least a little bit of progress. Normally, I have a lot of free time, so I can usually get, you know, 4 or 5 hours a day as long as I don't have to worry about, like, homework. Because, you know, college be like that. But most of the time I can get 4 hours in a night. But I'm gonna try to keep this down to about, like, an hour of raw footage at a time. Just so that I can, just to keep things small, because I have a lot of space on this computer, unlike my old computer. I don't want to, overdo it. Hi, Sherma. There's no real need to talk to Sherma until he arrives at Songclave, which is the settlement that you find in Act 2. Well, you basically kind of start it in Act 2. You know, there's no need to talk to him until he's there, because the only reason why you need to talk to him is to unlock the, I call it the Sherma quest. I think it's called Balm for the Wounded. Something like that. But outside of that, you don't really need to talk to him, but he's cute. Cute points allows for extra talking. Yeah, I know you probably like, you're crazy, why you're not sitting at the bench, and the answer to that is, I need the money. Like, you eventually kind of get to a point where, like, some of the paid-for benches you really don't need. So, and especially since you need to make sure that you can afford the maps, all the bellways, and just save up for, you know, this, that, and the other thing that is required, benches aren't exactly the most necessary thing. And so that's why I skip most benches. There are a few that I do grab. The one that I can think of on top of my head is the first actual bench that you get in Mount Faye, not the one that's temporary next to Chakra, but the one that's to the west. I had to think about directions there. There we go. Shard Pendant. Especially early on, you want to have this, probably want to have this on just to start generating a lot of shards because of the Bone Bottom quests. Afterwards, of course, it's still good if you're still pretty a tool-intensive build that you like to use. I'm not like it's mostly a habit I need to build into, but I don't use traps too much. I don't use a lot of spells too much either, but it's just me thinking about it less than any other reason. But yeah, there is a lot that will need to get done, but I'll get there. I'll try to point out important stuff as I go here. Try to, you know... No! Oh, I thought I was gonna go into the... You saw nothing. You saw nothing. Alright, so getting down, jump here. No need to stay low, because you kind of have to go hiding. Alright, click that for a shortcut. I don't think I really use that in this route. I might. I'd have to remember. Oshanka. Oh, so the other main goal, other than this being for Steelheart, is that this route should be able to get you speed completion as well. And also for me, my first 100%. So fun. Wait, what am I doing? What am I doing? Wait, can I get the compass? Yes, I can. Okay.
That's fine.
I wasn't sure with the 30 that I didn't grab at the very beginning. There we go. Just enough. Although we won't be getting more in a moment. Alright, so we take lower route. Grab those rosaries. But yeah, especially in Act 1, it's really important that you grab every single little rosary deposit that you can, because you'll be pretty poor. They're kind of just fighting everything that you see, like, as long as you're comfortable with it, of course. Will be really important. Plus, it would kind of set you up. The more rosaries that you kind of have saved up, the less that you have to grind for when we eventually go and take care of what would be the remaining merchants. especially like Grindel and Juliana. Like those two combined will be about 5,000 rosaries on their own. And then you combine that with all the other merchants, and then all the other, then the Bellways, and then the two later needle upgrades. There is a lot. Wait, what am I doing? Hold on. So when you get to this bench on this route, I like to. This is basically your first bench since you get the shard pendant, but especially once you kind of get to the point where you're mostly familiar with the map, especially early game, because you'll become very familiar with early game. Like you kind of realize that I find it kind of easy to navigate once you kind of know the general area. Sometimes I need a reference, and my guide kind of has like a general map of the area, so I don't have to, put on the compass, even if I kind of forget where I need to go. But yeah, that's when I normally put on my shard pendant to make sure that I can get as much as possible. Alright, so flip this letter, looking for a shortcut. I think I do use that one. Alright, so on the left side here, our first, second, third, one of our first, there's a Coral Commandment here that you want to pick up. Of course, those won't be useful until we reach and free Steelheart, but, any extra money just stored up is always good, even if we can't use it right away. Alright, so, first, obviously, we want to get Silksong as much as possible. Of course, maybe in your early runs you may feel uncomfortable using spells, or you just forget that spells exist. But, those, like, Silksong, from my observations, because I don't know the exact damage numbers, it's basically equivalent of 3 basic needle strikes, not counting for, certain needle strikes, like, taunts. Because the taunt actually gives, like, 50% more damage. I always forget that that's a thing. But here we go. Silksong. First of many. Now, I do find it interesting how they kind of auto-equips. Like, it makes sense for this first skill, just because, you kind of need it to, do stuff. But, like, the crest switches and the future, ones, that one, kind of, like, I get it, but I imagine it throws so many people off whenever they get a new crest or a new spell or whatever, because they're so used to doing their thing. Alright. So, for a brief moment, I kind of go off to the side here. And the reason why I kind of do that is, first of all, to unlock this elevator that is down here. Because this elevator actually is very useful. We'll be coming back in a moment. But also, there's some rosaries on the side. So, for those that don't know, you can pogo to the other side. You can actually miss the second pogo. This one, and still be able to make it over here for some rosaries. Of course, we obviously can't enter the wormways from here, but, again, like, a big part of early game is getting all of those early rosaries into your pockets. Of course, when you're in Steel Soul run, it's better to just keep everything on hand instead of, whenever you get those rosary strings, like the one that I got earlier, might as well just break it down, because, oh no, what's gonna happen if you die, guys? It's like, oh no, it's not just all your rosaries, it's your entire save file. So it really doesn't matter, so that's why I kind of just break down anything that I find. Except for, like, the hornet statue. That thing will forever stay in my inventory. That thing always deserves to be treated as well as possible. There we go. Alright, so get that. Maybe we can miss a few because there's only singular rosaries. We'll probably get them back somehow, especially if I have to reload. Oh, I know that partially, doing the, doing bench warping and, saving yourself by benching, like, by using bench warps, I know that there's probably some people that's like, why would you do that? That ruins the experience. But honestly, there is a bit of skill in itself for knowing when to quit. or rapidly hitting the menu button. But yeah, it's not... I think it's fair game. I have no shame in bench warping. Because, like, it's whatever gets you through, And, I'm sure there are people out there who will be a little bit more purist and refuse to do bench warping. For, saving yourself. What am I doing? I don't need to go this way. But yeah, it's like, if I need to, I will use bench warping to, save myself. Like, maybe one day, especially if this forbid it just takes off or something, maybe I will do a like, I tried to figure out a clever name, but my mind is completely blanking. But like a true Steelsoul run. Maybe I'd even add to things that aren't required for the 100% too, like the mementos. I haven't collected all the mementos. I've only gotten 2 or 3 in my first run. Yeah, but one day I want to kind of, see that's, maybe that'd be something neat for me to do, Just not right now. One step at a time. Like, just kind of like how I kind of handled the whole all bindings thing back in the first game. If you want to actually see that winning run of that, the quality isn't exactly fantastic. In fact, I would claim that it's quite horrible, especially since since that was back when I was in high school and I was, silly teenager trying to, doing stuff for the heck of it. But alright, so that's our 3rd moss berry. Yeah, so of course, so this will be our first wish completed with the moss druid. So that's why we were collecting those 3 moss berries. They're the only 3 that you have to pick up. This was actually one of my first changes that I actually made, when routing. Originally, I went for the moss berry that's on the moss fly above Bone Bottom, but I kind of realized that the one down here is not only closer, but more convenient. Figures, right? Alright, so we move up here, grab these, and drop down here. But anyway, kind of back to what I was kind of talking about. It's like, this stuff is, it is a lot. And, yeah, I know that, even for first playthroughs, there's the whole, question about difficulty. I'm kind of, like, like, I will say it, like, especially, coming from, my particular perspective with the first game in particular, it's like, it certainly felt harder when I was going through first. Like, the double damage never really bothered me too much. I mean, which has been a whole debate in itself. I was able to beat both Morwing and Sister Splinter before their nerfs. But, I feel like once you, like, I think a big part of it is simply just to inexperience, and because Hornet moves a lot differently than the Knight does, and, you have all these different extra techniques, you can't just rely on, Unbreakable Strength, Quick Slash, Long Nail, Narco Pride, maximum damage, or or the spell equivalent that I can't think of on top of my head. Like, but for me, like, there is nothing quite that, like, I don't know on top of my head anything that's quite that broken. I know that I think it's like I know that there's the Architect's Crest lifeblood file thing, which basically makes you immortal as long as you just don't get comboed. Like, I know that's a thing, and of course, you know, Architect tool damage, go burr. But I'm not really sure if there's any like super mega OP builds like in the first game. So there's that. Also, the bosses themselves are they're a lot more there's a lot of encouragement to be aggressive, but a lot more punishment if you be aggressive wrong. And if you combine that with like the double damage for getting back to places, I mean, certain run backs. Looking at you, Grail. It is, you know, it can certainly be a hard game, but I feel like the more that you, like, when you kind of go back to those same bosses that you might have struggled on when you first played your first playthrough, you find that it's actually like a lot easier. And a part of it, of course, is your own experience, you know, because, you know, you've beaten them before, so you kind of know what to expect, but also it just, you just feel better. Alright, so there we go. So we have our dog. Alright. So one thing I do before progressing, once I get dog, I take care of the first round of quests. The shard quest, the first donation, and then the pilgrim shells. So for those who may not know, a part of the requirements for the quest that allows you to go into Act 3, Silken Soul, requires you to get to a certain point where you get something special from the quests. For Bone Bottom, it's the Hornet Statuette. For Bellheart, it is getting your house. And then Songclave, I'm not actually entirely sure which quests need to be, like, how far you need to go into quests. I know that the Sherma one needs to be done at least, but I imagine you also have to, I'm pretty sure that the merchant needs to have both requests finished. All the donation-based ones I know need to be done. But I kind of just take it as, like, most of the quests. So, for the most part, I will basically be doing every single quest just for simplicity's sake. And since the first ones are available right now, including a donation quest, that's why I'm going and doing Pilgrim now. Pilgrim Shawls now. Continue to do that donation. There we go. So with that done, we just take ourselves back to back to our pet. And then we can keep on going. Alright, and here we go. We can turn in that pilgrim shawl for the rosary string, as I mentioned before. And then, oh, it's just a basic rosary necklace. I think that's 80. And then the bone bottom repairs. Of course, there's no immediate one that's noticeable yet, but, you know, that gives you one step closer towards completing Bone Bottom, which again is required for Act 3 access. Alright, so we head back to the Marrow. So a little bit of how my run is a bit structured. How I kind of treat the 3 different acts is different. Different from the other 2. So if, like, for Act 1, I'm very rosary centered. I'm also very as long as things aren't too far out of the way, I'll grab them, but otherwise I won't. So basically, like, whatever you can easily get on a first visit, essentially. But everything else, that's the only things that I really pick up in Act 1. Act 2, I split into 3 different parts because it kind of keeps things, because there's 3 main phases for me. There's the basically getting movement. Then there's collecting everything, and then the cleanup, which is basically like, you know, shops and, you know, things that I deem too difficult to do, you know, when I would, you know, normally think of to do them. And then, you know, remaining quests, waking up the Sentinel, basically all the loose ends, and of course, you know, getting into Act 3, and completing the Silk and Soul quest line. And then Act 3, which the furthest I've not beaten any of the memory bosses yet. I haven't gotten quite that far. It's kind of like a hybrid almost of early and mid Act 2, I guess, would be the kind of closest, where I kind of prioritize getting like you know, getting the one major movement upgrade, and then instantly go and collect everything, and then I and then I go back to stories. It's split that way. Crispy. Oh. But yeah, like I have a very specific kind of like method I kind of handle things, and especially for early Act 2, there is definitely a lot of risk associated with it in certain parts. Mostly because, you know, I'm basically running on you know, face masks for a very large, like, up until I get wings, pretty much, and like, because I don't get my first mask shard. Like, I think if I get the first mask shard, like complete one, when I get to Deep Docks, because it's the mask shard that you have to fight an enemy arena for, in that room that connects the Marrow and the Deep Docks. Right. Move back here. But, you know, until then, you're running on 5 mask shards, and, you know, there's certain areas where, you know, are especially double damage heavy, like, the right side of the gun, like, getting to the hook shot in particular can be a bit risky. I actually died once, like, I think it was my second run I died, there, because I tried to be a little bit too risky, and, tried to grab a craft metal that, was a little bit too dangerous, because of, it's the flying enemy with the curved, thing. I'm not sure what it's called exactly, but he has a curved, weapon, and he can fling himself into a, like, kind of fling himself to do double damage on top of just having, you know, the ranged option, because he also throws his weapon, which, as we know, throwing your weapon is cringe. So yeah, that dangerous guy, and you combine that with the other double damage enemy in the room, and the lava, and yet somehow I managed to die to something as stupid as the coals, because I didn't have the magma bell at the time. That's actually one of my biggest pieces of advice, is that, like, for the most part, I avoid shopping early on entirely, unless I know for sure that I can clear an NPC out. The one exception I have to that rule is the magma bell from Forge Daughter, because there are so many moments where, like, it just becomes a lot safer for you to have the magma bell on. Especially if you're in early game. Like, you won't have too many other good defensive options, because you won't have, like, Long Claw, you won't have, warding, like, sure, you'll probably have Warding Bell, Poison the Paula Pouch. Like, you will have to sacrifice, you know, defensives for in those sections, but compare that to relative safety, it makes things so much easier. Oop, almost went too far. Not the first time I've done that. Alright. Go in here. Hi, Grindle. Oh, let me take care of your cellmate here real quick. There we go. Easy. See you in the bastard steps, buddy. Alright, straight pin. So straight pin, like, you know, obviously it's a very basic early game tool. I thought, at least with my how things currently are with my guide, I don't get too many options early on for offensive tools. I mean, one of them I actually use for most part all the time. And that's the one that you pick, the threefold pin, the one that you get at Crawl Lake. The straight pin isn't bad, especially for an early tool. It does as much as a single nail strike. So like it's not exactly the most powerful, but of course, obviously, you know, it can get upgraded and whatnot. So especially, you know, early game when you don't have too many other options and you kind of need the range, it is a decent option. But definitely not the best tool out there. Well, so for this run, I don't actually, like, you don't have to talk to Mushka until you have the 5 fleas. Because, you know, like, while it's, like, would be technically exhausting dialogue, now there's no real point to it, because, you know, you already have his wish from the wish board. Because if you don't talk to him, after, and well, before is the right word I'm looking for. If you don't talk to him before beating Bell Beast, his wish appears at the board, which the Lost Flea wish, which if you were paying attention back then, you saw that I picked that up. But there's no need to act on it right now. Right, with that is the last thing that I do here in the Marrow until Act 2. Bar it. Well, that's actually not true. There's actually a couple of Bone Bottom quests that I do return for. The Flint Beetles I do also in Act 1. But that's after, I think, if I recall correctly, just after I unlock Bellheart. So I'm already doing side quests anyway. But until then, we're done. So it's gonna be a hot minute before we come back here. Oh, and for those who may not know, just like in the first game, you can snipe through platforms. So if they're thin enough and you think you're a little bit uncomfortable trying something, you can kind of platform snipe them. All right, so here we are, Deep Docks. The one thing that while technically there's some additional rooms and I think an upgrade you might be able to get right now. Because I think technically you can get your first spool, although I haven't tried it. It's basically I leave exploring the what I call the deeper docks until later. It's actually like part of late Act 3 because I'm scared of lava. the lava is scary, so I just choose to avoid it. Little buddy. I don't know why, but most of the time this room is perfectly fine. But sometimes I just do be stupid and just ram myself headfirst into the lava because I mistime it and it sucks. Alright, I'll wait for it. Go. There we go. Man, they're so cute. I still don't know which one is better, the grubs or the fleas, but I love them both. And I know which one Horta would prefer, I know that for sure. But, and it's just silly little guys. Alright, so there we go. There is that called for later. I don't know if... I mean, obviously you do have to get fast travel for the Silksong, obviously. But one thing I don't know is if you have, like, I'm not sure if the Beastling Call, which means getting all the stations, is actually required for 100%. But, you know, it's also just convenient to have the fast travel anyway. So it's like... I gotta get all them stations. How did I do that? I continue to impress myself. There we go. Alright. Time to go get Sprint. As you probably can tell, I'm like, obviously I know where to kind of generally go, but I'm not exactly like doing any like super speed ready techs or anything like that. I kind of like, maybe one day I'll learn some of that tech and whatnot, but I'm not like, as long as I can get it done within the 30 hours, I do not care. You know, it may have to be 29 hours and 59 minutes, but daggone it, I'm going to, like, it's gonna get done. I want to cut myself up, but I don't, right, can't go through that way. I have to keep going up. That's not the exit you're looking for. There we go. So, of course, there is this enemy arena here you kind of have to clear with the ants here. So for those of you that, you know, obviously have played the game, ants, the scars. They're definitely one of the more annoying general enemy types, especially the bigger one and this guy that's dead right here. The one with the giant skull that takes forever to kill, especially early game. And then the really big boy. Ooh, one of the main reasons that I'm avoiding. But yeah, like, these ants, you gotta respect them. There we go. Like, I do find the ants, like, oh my word, that I never really had, yeah. Of course, there's several instances where you have to deal with the ants. Of course, outside of, you know, Hunter's March itself, there's the Great Taste of Farmland quest when you're dealing with the basement of Halfway Home, and then, of course, there's Carmelita. I find them really, really neat. Like, I also kind of like the mantises too, you know, like the ants kind of have some, like, parallels to the mantises. Of course, obviously their fate is a lot worse here compared to the mantises, but they definitely have that sort of parallel. And there we go, Swift Step, finally I can sprint everywhere. Which, yeah, I will be doing a lot of sprinting, like, because as it turns out, it is a lot faster. Who could have possibly guessed? But I know it. Hold on. There we go. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to like time the jumps if you're starting the sprint. Really meant to do that. Yeah, so that's flea number 3. Because there's one in Farfields and the one in Greymore, and that's the best. Yes, of course, you know, before you enter the lace fight, now obviously, you know, there's no real danger of getting lava'd in that fight, but now this is the most convenient point to get the magma bell. So that's why I get it now, especially considering the benefits down the long run. There we go. I always forget that those guys spawn a little bit higher up than I think. There we go. That's fine. There's a bench right above here, so... There we go. Right, killed myself there. And there we go. Enemy arena done. Of course, to the right there is one of the locked doors. We will only be needing 3 keys. So one for getting the rosary cannon, one for getting, there's also the Wormways door, and of course the Deeper Docks door. While there's technically a way to get into Deeper Docks early, especially without having hookshot and double jump, there's no reason to go into Deeper Docks, even if that becomes available. Another reason why we delay it. But yeah, we only need the three keys. We won't be rescuing Green Prince. All right. Hi, Lace. Man, in retrospect, in retrospect, this is like after fighting her other fights in the game, because there's like she's so much simpler. Even if she's like mostly the same, just the speed of it. Alright, there goes. Alright, she's mostly down. Now, one of the things that I don't quite understand is how, like, is it completely, I'm not sure if it's completely random whether she chooses to, when she parries, whether she stays on the ground or goes up. Obviously, like, most of the time if she goes up, it's less annoying to deal with than if she just instantly parries. But at least for this fight, it's usually not a big deal. And there we go. Lace is dealt with. Always respect the parry, though. Alright, second bell. Where's the first bell? Anyway, one of the bells you need a ring. Oh, that's also something I should probably mention, is that we're taking the Last Judge route instead of the Phantom route to get to the Citadel. I'm just not comfortable enough with going through a Sinner's Road and the Vile Water. Like, I could probably do Phantom herself. With minimal upgrades. But beyond that, nah. There we go. There we go, that's collected. Oh, I thought I was gonna be clever with it. Dang it. I was hoping maybe I could pogo off of his head while he's going down the air. That would have been so cool, but no. Get back here. Good sir. I humbly request you to hand over all of your money. There we go. Money required. So fun. I still don't know how I did this, but I somehow managed to entirely skip getting chakra for the Farfields during my first playthrough, and I remember that I was like looping around all over the place trying to figure out, like, chakra, where the heck are you? And I remember this, like, eventually I find Greymore, and of course, she's at her spot in Greymore, and it's like, somehow I just, because I didn't know that by getting the, so, you can't exactly go back up to where chakra is, I don't think. Not without, once you get to a certain point in Farfields, until you get the, Drifter's Cloak. So, obviously, I got the cloak before I found her, and I didn't realize that she would just be gone, because unlike Cornifer in the first game, she doesn't really leave too much. Like, she leaves a couple of her rings behind, of course, but there's no letters like, hey, I was here. I almost fell off. That would be embarrassing. I gotta deal with you. There we go. But I just completely forgot that, there's no Cornifer note. So I was just wandering for so long, just trying to find her, even though she wouldn't be found. And I also didn't know that you could summon her in Bone Bottom. I had no idea about that either, so literally I was basically lost for a solid 20 minutes, just trying to find her when she just couldn't be found. And that was basically my first experience with Farfields. Now, I imagine that I am not the only one who had problems with this. Maybe not necessarily Farfields, because honestly, the Farfields location is not complex at all. Normally, she doesn't really go too far out of her way to be in a complicated spot. Unless you do something stupid like I did. Oh, the spine's there. I thought it fell. There we go. Yeah. I might as well pick up the rosaries while I'm here. I don't do this every run, but I feel like I'm forgetting that exists. But I really should. It's like basically free money. At least since you kind of have to grind a spot anyway. With spines. Yeah, we won't be going further into that area until later. Get back here now! I am so glad I wasn't on 2 health there. That would have been an embarrassing way to die this early on. There we go, and that's max. Classic blunder, I do that all the time. It's like I always make the assumptions like there's gonna be nothing, there's gonna be a platform. No, there isn't. I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't know this place existed. And I would never have checked. Well then, I'm glad that was a thing. I'll gladly not take damage and instead find money. But there we go. That out of the way. Spines completed. Cloak acquired. But yeah. So that's basically everything up to Drifter's Cloak pretty much done. I think I'm gonna call this part here. SEO, if you're following along, you know, best of luck. If you're not, that's fine. You know, this isn't like the full official guide or anything. This is just the, this is just me, you know, getting stuff done. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, you know, and, you know, best of luck. Silksong.